S13 project continues on, and first of all I'd like to apologise for my previous video, which actually turned out to be filmed either in portrait form or I exported it in wrong format. I don't know, but I looked back and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's embarrassing. So I'm just going to quickly recap some of the stuff that I have done so far from my more of a decent video and what I've been up to lately. So the suspension is back on with a new Untrail bar link on this side, and I've still got the other side to do. So most of this stuff here is assembled. There's a brake line peeking through. Well, from this end, not particularly much been happening. I'm still hunting for some wings that seem to be rather rare. Suspension back on this side as well, and the car's on axle stands rather than being supported by a bunch of wheels. Inside, it's an absolute mess and I need to clean it up at some point. Maybe. I have started sanding down some of this, and I don't know if this is filler or some sort of primer. It's too thin to be filler, I think. And it's smooth, so I don't know why there would be any filler on here, but I think this is the reason why all of this has been bubbling up and whatnot. But yeah, I've started sanding down this side a little bit. Obviously the really clean boot, and sanded down more on this side, and I've been using this air sander with 75mm discs, and I'm using 120 grit discs, which are doing the job quite well. I have also gone a bit mad with the sim sealer. Most of the underside is now done, and I had a major issue or reaction with some parts of the tunnel. So as you can see, some of it is nice and black and some of it is still red. Essentially, I have wire brushed inside underneath, covered it with Hammerite Rust Beater primer, let it dry for 2 or 3 days, applied U-Pol Gravitex, and it reacted. So that's all been sanded down again, and I'm gonna epoxy primer that. I still got 250ml of epoxy primer left from doing the bonnet area place. So my plan is to basically clean up both sills or sand them down and epoxy primer all the pinch welds and all of that stuff that obviously I've ground down before, and because obviously the sill was off. And currently I am working on shaping this piece of metal to go into here, and it's getting into shape. A bit more trimming to do, a bit more shaping to do. But that is also the last bit of welding that I can think of. Obviously I need to clean up some of the plug welds that I've done on this sill. And once the sill is back on welded, I can epoxy primer both sills and that bit underneath, let it all cure, and then I can finally Gravitex the entire underneath of the car and finally get on with putting rear suspension on, fuel tank, all that sort of jazz. Running fuel lines, brake lines, and getting to the point where the car can go back on its wheels. Nice. The sill is getting tacked in and it's looking pretty decent. Not 100% sure that this repair was right because it seems to be like going in, but side skirts, because the metal has warps here a little bit, I think. Live and learn. Don't like welding, but as such, it's going to be solid. Obviously going to let it cool down, grind down these tacks, and going to do a solid weld. I've seen plenty of people just tacking metal in place, grinding it down and filling it. I don't really get it. Mine's going to be a full solid weld. There are some spot welds to do. I don't know if you can see, there's some spot welds to do here. Nothing gets welded on here, but I'm going to tack it in a few places. I think maybe like that from factory, or maybe not. And there's some sealer goes in here, which is what it was from factory. So progress. Whew, big moment. I have just packed away the welder because I believe that the welding on the S13 is finally done. So a bit of a side quest is filling in the antenna hole. I did rush it, but I thought, well, a bit of filler, not going to hurt. So that looks better. And I do wonder if that is a filler. Focus. That yellow, whether that's a filler or that's some sort of primer. But it's just this, it's everywhere, and I really don't think they would have skimmed the whole quarter. Like, why? Anyways, the outer sill, the one that I've been putting away for about a month and a half, that's all done, and it actually looks pretty decent. Obviously, once the primer's on it, it might show a few imperfections, but that's what the filler is for. But it feels really good to actually finish up the welding. I've been putting off this for a long time. I mean, I've resprayed the engine bay and started assembling that before I finish this side. So next up, sanding the sills, cleaning them up, and epoxy primer. And that's going to be another thing that's going to look a bit better. Many hours later, this is all sanded down and blended in, or well, smoothed out. This car has definitely had a full respray, and I think this is a high fill primer. This is the colour of it, if I remember correctly, and it's basically all over the car. It's on the sills and everywhere, so I'm pretty sure the car had a full respray at some point. This keeps falling down, which I'm not impressed with, but yeah, whatever. The sills are all sanded down, 180 grit sandpaper. Still pretty happy with this sill. Looks pretty good. Honestly, the other side sill, it's kind of tight in here. This side is all sanded down as well. And just about to mix up the epoxy primer. Luckily I still got some left from when I did the engine bay. I'm going to put a few layers down on the sills. I don't think it needs to be as thick as it was on the engine bay. I think that it's going to be less exposed. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to go 2 solid layers for sure, and if I have enough I might do 3. So I'll show you the result in a blink. Finally, the sills are covered in epoxy primer. Had a few issues here and there, had a few runs, nothing major. Managed to get some dirt into here, which hopefully will sand down. I ended up putting a few more layers of primer on top. And this is where one of the dents was. Obviously that will require some filler, as well as a few points here. But I guess it's nothing that you can avoid with these old cars anymore. Obviously this is where the antenna was. A little bit of filler will be required as well. And this is the boot still. So next up, Gravitex the underneath of the car. Hopefully that's going to be the 3rd and final attempt. Once that dries out, I can actually stick the engine in. I need to order some brake pads and Gravitex the rest of the car, and then hopefully by the end of the week it's going to be on its wheels, and I need to get it back on its wheels so I can hang the doors, align them, and make sure the hinges are in the right place before I start doing any painting or anything like that. And also I need to get the windows out. So much still to do. Just trying to tackle all the jobs one at a time and not to jump from one place to another, even though I kind of done that with sanding down these quarters. But we're gonna get there. Don't mind me, just chilling. So this was the last area of the floor that wasn't cleaned up, and I had to do a bit of a sketchy wheel, axle stand, jack, a massive piece of timber and then resting on the bolts that hold the subframe in. Anyway, apart from the sketchiness, this has been all wire brushed and epoxy primed and sim sealed. Applied it everywhere where I could. I don't think you can have too much sim sealer, so there we go. So I'm going to let it dry, and then tomorrow I shall be covering all this in the Gravitex stuff. That should be me done with the floor. And in other developments, I have started cleaning up the interior a little bit. Took off some of the sound deadening and applied some rust converter in this corner. There was a bit left over, and I need to epoxy primer all this as well, and then apply some sort of paint, because obviously this is all being cut out and messed around with. So yeah, I need to epoxy primer that, and hopefully one day the interior will look a bit better than this. The Gravitex thing did happen, and finally where I've epoxy primed on top of the Hammerite Rust Beta primer, everything covered up fine, didn't react, happy days. However, somehow I ran out of 6 cans of the Gravitex, and I found a can of Tetrasil stone chip protection stuff, and I thought I was going to apply that, and I ended up buying 2 more cans from Euro Car Parts. They stock it and it's cheap enough. And let me show you the final result of underside of the car. Obviously the lighting is not the best because I'm in a blue gazebo and there's a bright LED light there, but the entire underside now looks like this. The wheel well has been covered, the arch corner things, so hopefully that is enough protection for years to come. And I did have a bit of leftover stuff, and I was going to spray the inside of the chassis rails and the sills, and I ended up doing this instead because somehow it just all poured out, and I had to spread it, which doesn't make sense because that's obviously sound deadening. It went all over there, and then I just used it to cover this area. So yeah, that was a fun moment. But yeah, that's the underside of the cars all. I think at this point it's pretty much restored, and the only thing I could have done, well, the only step further, and I'm sure you've seen in some of the clips, is obviously there's still rust inside of the chassis rails where I haven't touched it, and apart from just removing the entire chassis rail, you know, there's no way of getting it all out. So obviously not a 100% restoration, but this is the best I could do with the conditions that I have. One thing I realised is that if I did have a rotisserie, this job would have been miles better and easier to do, but you know, it's just a driveway job. I think that's one thing worth keeping in mind. It's a driveway job, it's not a professional body shop restoration. So for once, I'm really happy with the results that I have achieved so far. And yeah, that was going to be the end of this video. I'm waiting for the Gravitex to completely cure, so I'm probably going to leave it for today. And then the next thing, reassembly of underneath, subframe, suspension, shock absorbers, fuel lines, brake lines, all that good stuff. I have rebuilt the calipers off camera, so they're ready to go as well, front and back. I just still need to order the brake lines, well, the rear brake lines and brake pads front and back. Plenty to be getting on with, but I cannot wait to start putting all that fresh stuff underneath, dropping the car on its wheels, setting up the doors, and then completely sanding down the entire body. And who knows, maybe in a week's time it's going to be covered in primer. So thank you for watching, hope you enjoy the progress as much as I do, and I'll see you in the next one.